Hey everybody, welcome in to Off the Table. John Lunsford, Sean, Rockstar, Henniger.
Good.
How has life been? Anything going on?
We had a baby.
You had a baby?
Yeah. We didn't tell anybody that we were pregnant. We said we were smuggling beach balls for a long time. But we had our second child on February 12th. Not the first child was induced, so we kind of had an appointment like, hey, on Sunday, you guys are coming to the hospital at 4:30. Come on in, pack a bag, have everything ready. This one, not so much. The due date was February 23rd, which was yesterday. And I was here working with you guys on a Tuesday, and Nancy had gone to her doctor, and they said that, it could happen. The baby has dropped more than enough, so it could happen today. It could happen tomorrow. So I went home, and we quickly packed a bag, and we were like, it's not going to happen tonight. And I was concerned about my 2-year-old, who was like, how are we going to get him to school if this happens? Well, it's just not going to happen. And just out of nowhere, I told my wife, I was like, can we call our nanny's daughter, Layton, who you know? I was like, I'm going to call her and ask her if she would like to spend the night, just in case. We have a little sweet air mattress for you, just if something happens. It's probably not going to happen. And we're asleep, and about 4 a.m, Nancy wakes me up saying she thinks her water broke. She doesn't know because she's never been like that before. So we're like, okay, well, we wake Layton up. It's like, can you take Cord to school, get him some breakfast? We go to the hospital. They check us in, and they say, well, we had to do these tests to see if your water officially broke. And they said it did. So we're going to admit you to the hospital. And then that was at 6 a.m. They gave her an epidural and Pitocin and all that stuff. And then they had her start pushing at 2:55 p.m. Had the baby at 3:33, very quick. And I think I had a panic attack. So with my first child, with Cord, I'm in the hospital. I didn't get grossed out or anything. It wasn't like I saw blood and I passed out. Nothing like that. So what they do, if you haven't had a child, they
I have not.
Pull the child out, and like nurses put him in this little heating element thing, and they wipe it down, and then they kind of like dress it and warm it, put a little hat on it and everything. And so they borrow one of your phones. Like, we'll take some of the pictures because we got to be all hands on deck. They're doing the footprints and everything. So I remember seeing that with Cord and just being like, I was more in shock, just like this is all happening so fast. So when Maeve was born, I had stood up, and Nancy's like, well, you take pictures while they're doing the cleaning and everything. I was all right. And my mom was in there, and I stood up and I started taking pictures. And then I was like, God, I'm hot. And I felt my head. I was like, I'm sweating. And one of the nurses goes, you are ghost white. And I was like, I need to sit down. They're like, are you about to faint? And I go, no, I just need to sit down. And they all, like 3 nurses came to me, made me eat peanut butter crackers. And I was like, I'm not about to faint. It's not that. I didn't want to say like, just because I think it all hit me right then. Like, I got 2 kids. It's not inexpensive. Stayed in the hospital for 2 nights. We got released on Valentine's Day, and it has been a fever dream since then. We're not sleeping. A baby eats every 2 hours, cries a lot.
So do I.
Yeah. God, you eat every 2 hours?
Mm-hmm. And I cry a lot.
That 2 a.m. feeding's hard. But it's just that we've been taking shifts that she does not like to sleep in the bassinet. So comment below if you have any suggestions, because this little girl does not like to sleep on her back. She has to be on your chest, and it's very unsafe sleeping to us to take 2-hour shifts every night. She sleeps on your chest while I sleep for an hour and a half, then vice versa. So it's just, we are not getting any sleep. But we tried for an hour and a half last night for her to get in the bassinet, and she just cried and cried. It's like she's not breathing. She cries so much. But it's been good. Don't literally leave the house. We have to schedule showers. Like, you took a shower 2 days ago. It's my turn.
I texted you, I guess it was the Sunday before last week, and I was like, hey, what's your schedule looking like? It's like, well, I can't take a shower.
Yeah.
It's like, that was the one thing. I can't take a shower without making a schedule for it first.
It was interesting because you had said that you want to do something from home, like on the iPad, and I was like, yeah, I think I could do that. And it's just like, no, I can't do that. Like, it's just like, at least our son's at daycare, but with her, she's always sleeping and stuff. Like, there's nowhere our house is so small, there's not really a place I can like get away and be quiet and do a quick little thing. So it's just like, unless I leave the house, and I didn't want to leave Nancy. It's like, it's just, another thing is kudos to single parents. I don't know how they do it. I don't. I don't, especially with 2 kids, which is nothing because, people that have multiple kids, but it's just, you have to start a new routine and you start, it gets better by the day, but these first 2 weeks, you're just in shock. Like, it's just like, I don't know what's going on. You feel like crying because like there's no sleep and there's just like, she's always crying. So you can't drive anywhere. You can't eat. We can't cook. Dishes are piling up. So you're like, let's just use paper plates and paper bowls for a couple of years. But a lot of people come by and visit. And that's like, it's nice, but it's just, it's hard. But we're, 2 weeks in? This is our second week? Yeah. So just know it gets better by the day, a little easier. You start getting a routine. And but she doesn't. But anyway, how have you been? Get your kitchen fixed?
My kitchen is not fixed. I'm also eating off paper plates and plastic
bad
utensils.
For the environment, by the way.
Yeah, bad for the environment. I don't have a kitchen. I have.
Y'all can come over and use ours whenever you want.
I've been losing things. You've been gaining things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're losing money quick.
Well, yeah, me too. Because that kitchen is not going to be cheap to remodel. So, everything's been good here. We've missed you here, but glad I guess you got the schedule somewhat normal-ish to at least be able to come in today.
Yeah, well, just try to get some hours in, like just come in, like get Nancy used to, she's got 6 weeks of this before she goes back to work, and it's just like, because I do the Singo thing at Odie's, and that's only like an hour and a half, and I felt so bad last Tuesday. I was like, are you going to be able to do can I leave? Because with a toddler too, like it's hard because we still have to lay down in bed with Cord to read to him and stuff like that. You can't just put him in his room going all right, good luck, go to sleep. And with a baby, it's just hard for one person to do it. So it's like, I was like, let him stay up until I get home. I should be home by 8:30, 9 o'clock. And it sucks to have him stay up that late, but it's just like, that's what we got to do right now.
It's different with 2 kids at 2 different phases of life.
Correct.
If it was 2 babies, like you had twins, that's one thing. Or if it was 2 older kids, as opposed to you have one that's a little bit older and one that's now newborn.
Well, so we also flipped out. We did not know how he was going to react because this is a kid that gets all the attention he wants. And now he's got a sibling that he's got to share things with. And so we were so scared. So Nancy had a somebody told her that have the baby get him a gift. So Maeve, his little sister, gave him a Hot Wheels car wash. So when we came home from the hospital, I had a box and I was like, your baby sister gave you this. And he wanted to open it. So we did. And it was a car wash. So the only thing he'll say to her is he'll go up to her right in front of her face and go, thank you for my car wash, and go play with his car wash. So it's like he hasn't been mean to the point where I'm being replaced, which I'm sure is coming. Like, why aren't y'all paying attention to me? So it's been Nancy with the baby and me playing with Cord 22 hours of the day. So imagine getting up at 5:30 and playing hardcore with the toddler, Batman and Hot Wheels, and then tending to a baby that spits up and sharts. Can I say shart?
Our you child, say whatever you want to.
Our child sharts.
We're not on radio anymore. You can say whatever you want to.
She makes a face, and you go hear a, and you'll check and she sharted again. So it's been one of those things. But yeah, we're getting better. And he's taking it a lot better than I thought he would have. But glad to be back in some sort of semblance of normalcy where, would love to take a nap, but it's just not in the cards for me.
Well, I'm glad you've made it a couple of weeks in. I'm glad you're able to come in here and we're able to do this and share fun stories of all of the things that you just said with all of our listeners and viewers and everything. So I'm assuming you didn't watch the SAG Awards last night.
When I walked in this morning, you said that was last night. And I said, I didn't even know. I just saw something on TV. When you turn YouTube TV on, a promo would come up saying the Oscars is Sunday. I was like, wow, didn't even. I know Conan's hosting. I love Conan. I'm going to try my hardest to watch it because I love him so much. But no idea that the SAG Awards were last night. No idea who won. If there was any surprises.
How many movies total did you see last year? Or that are considered 2024 movies, I guess.
Is a complete unknown considered?
Yeah.
A complete unknown.
I know you saw Civil War.
Civil War and Planet of the Apes.
So 3.
Yeah. 3 movies.
Well, hey.
Spread out between 12 months.
Good thing is 2 of those are nominated for Oscars.
Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes is nominated for visual effects. Yeah.
I did not like it.
It was okay.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is one of my favorites in that series. I love that movie. I hated the one with Woody Harrelson. Was it War of the Planet of the Apes?
War of the Planet of the Apes. It was
did
not
like
War.
It, but Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was so good.
I liked Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Was the first one with James Franco. That's probably my favorite. But this one was better than War. but I probably like Rise and Dawn better than Kingdom. But it is actually nominated for an Oscar for visual effects. And then A Complete Unknown is nominated for everything. And last night, Timothee Chalamet won. Do you think he did a good job playing Bob Dylan? I don't really know much about Bob Dylan. You're way more into music than I am. So do you think he actually did a good job?
He did a great job. I saw it with my dad, and he was like, "That's an amazing movie." Because the fact that he learned guitar and learned to sing and didn't do the lip sync thing, like,
did you see him on SNL when he performed?
Yes, I was like, okay, he did some like rare songs that nobody's like. I
Yeah.
just really like this song. Everybody thought the twist was going to be, Timothée Chalamet would be with a musical guest, Timothée Chalamet, but he was going to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Dylan," and it'd actually be Bob Dylan, but that didn't happen. I thought that would have been really, really cool, but I don't think Bob's into that stuff anymore, or never was. But he can't sound like him now.
I was about to say, can he still sing?
Can't do it now, no. But yeah, it was a great portrayal, but I really don't have anything to compare to because I did not see any of the other Oscar. I didn't see, what's the one with Adrian Brody?
The Brutalist. It's only 4 hours, so if you can find a time in your schedule to schedule 4 hours to watch
and then
a movie.
My dad said how good Conclave is. Was that nominated for anything?
So Conclave actually won last night. Okay. The way the SAG Awards does it, they don't do best film, it's best cast because it's all about, it's just the actors. There's no like directors or writers or anything that are nominated. Yeah. And so the nominees were Honora, which is still the favorite to win Best Picture.
No idea. I know Honora. She's, yeah.
It's basically a movie about a stripper ends up marrying a Russian kid who's like the son of like a rich Russian oligarch, and she basically would then be rich too, and they try to get the marriage annulled and all that. Conclave, A Complete Unknown, The Brutalist, and Wicked were the ones that were nominated. But Conclave actually won last night, which was a bit of a surprise. And if you go to the Pop Culture Life, at Pop Culture Life on YouTube, I'm going to do a video on all of that as well, how the odds have shifted, and now Conclave could potentially win Best Picture. So that was a bit of a surprise. But also, Timothée Chalamet won last night. He has not won anything. It has been all Adrian Brody in every single award show until last night. And that's then shifted things to where Timothée Chalamet could potentially win an Oscar. But he's had a lot of really good roles. He's young, but he still had a lot of really good roles.
I didn't know he was the kid on Homeland.
He's done a lot of things as a child that you don't think of. They did a whole montage last night of everybody that's been on Law & Order SVU, because that show's been on for like 30 years. And it's amazing how many people, and he was on it when he was like a little kid. Yeah. It's amazing, especially like children who are on it, back in the day that are now adults. But there's so many people that have been on Law & Order because you got to have guest stars, obviously. It's been on for so long. But he was one of those, and he's done a lot of good things, but it's kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio. He won for The Revenant, but I don't know that anybody's going to say The Revenant is his best role, that you're going to go with, he should have won for Titanic. He should have won for...
What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
He was good in What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Fantastic.
Which I only watched that thanks to you.
He's better in Django Unchained. I liked him better than that. Like his role, that was a supporting actor role. But
I really liked him in Wolf of Wall Street. There's a ton of movies. The Departed. The Departed may be his best movie, but he won for The Revenant. And not that The Revenant is bad. A lot of people liked it, but that's not the one you typically think of. So I wonder with Timothée Chalamet if it's going to be the same way. He's only been nominated one other time for an Oscar with Call Me by Your Name. But I could see when Dune Messiah, the third Dune movie, comes out, kind of like Return of the King. There's a lot of Oscar nominations there, potentially some wins there for people like Zendaya, Timothée Chalamet, Denis Villeneuve that directed it, all that. But it could be Bob Dylan. That's the one that finally gets it for him.
Or Bradley Cooper. Is he nominated again this year?
No.
Okay.
Bradley Cooper has been nominated a lot and is now more on the directing side because he's been nominated a couple times for that as well with Maestro and A Star Is Born. But did you see A Star Is Born?
I did.
Do you like it?
I didn't like the voice. I don't like the way he talked. Like it's
real low grumble voice.
He did like somebody making a parody of Eddie Vedder, like where everybody, he tells his brother he always wanted to sound like him. Like, well, Sam Elliott doesn't sound like that either. Like, so it's just like But it was a good film. I've never seen the Chris Christopherson version or the Judy Garland version. I haven't seen. There's like 5 versions of that film. But
do you think Bradley Cooper sang decently, like his music?
Yes, he plays guitar. I just don't know why you have to do this. Like it's that was my only complaint. Like he played a good drunk.
He's just a good grumbly drunk. Yeah.
Got a big nose.
Yeah. So Timothée Chalamet could potentially win Best Actor this weekend. We'll see. We'll recap the Oscars. See if you can watch a little bit of it.
Is it a strong year? I don't know.
It ended up a little stronger, I think, than people thought because the writer's strike pushed some movies like Dune back to this past year. It's supposed to be a 2023 movie. Honora, that's the favorite right now, I thought was just okay. I didn't really love it. The Brutalist, which has been a favorite, I thought was just okay. Conclave I actually really liked. Dune I really liked. Wicked I really liked. So there's some movies that are nominated that I really like. Sing Sing was not nominated for Best Picture. It's a pretty good movie, but it was nominated for a bunch of other awards. But overall, I'd say it was a decent year. It's just the thing that when you think of Timothee Chalamet in his grand scheme of acting, 20 years from now, if this is the one Oscar that he potentially wins, it's like, oh, that's what he won for?
Yep.
He didn't win for this, and you can sit there and name like 10 other movies.
It could be ones where he just wins multiple Oscars. You're just saying he's just going to win one.
He could. He's still a kid. He could
Dune's a trilogy, man.
Dune is a trilogy, and he's going to, Dune Messiah could potentially win some stuff if it's done well. But, yeah, I don't know. I think Timothée Chalamet has a good chance of winning. The odds are shifting in his favor, so we'll see if he wins that. You talked about he sounded like Eddie Vedder. Did you see Eddie Vedder on the SNL 50th anniversary?
I saw the digital short thing of him doing On the Boat. I never heard that. They said that Michael Bolton did it originally.
Yeah.
I remember some of those songs, and I thought it was interesting. But then I saw him do The Waiting with the Roots, and then they did Corduroy. I haven't watched that, but he did a nod to Elvis Costello. Did you know the story about that?
No.
Elvis Costello did his single, hit a popular song in at least I don't know if it was the 70s or 80s, but they wanted him to play the single, like what they were playing on the radio, and he didn't want to. So what they did, he started the song of the single, and then he stopped. There was like, no, we're not going to do that tonight. And then he did like a B-side that people were so upset about. So Vedder did like a nod to that, like saying like he was a pioneer that like I'm not going to do what you tell me. But I love him, but Ed's getting old.
I didn't realize it was him. So the first thing I saw,
he looks like the Cowardly Lion.
The first thing I saw was the Lonely Island medley that they did, and the Michael Bolton thing. It's all about Pirates of the Caribbean. It's pretty funny, but it wasn't him, and it wasn't always him because like there's a bit with Akon singing that they got Bad Bunny to do instead, and so it was a little off. Like T-Pain was there. Chris Parnell does a song with him. He was there. Lady Gaga does a song with him.
Chris Parnell went gray too, didn't he?
He did.
And Mike Myers, like he's so gray. He's white now.
He is. Lady Gaga was there. So like, there's a lot of people who have done stuff. Justin Timberlake was notably absent. It was a little weird. But the Michael Bolton bit was done by Eddie Vedder. And I didn't realize it was him until then I saw Eddie Vedder actually come out and do his bit.
And it was so short. It was a short little bit thing.
And so I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, it's like, oh, that's Eddie Vedder. I had no idea. I feel like, and I'm not a Pearl Jam person, but I have heard plenty of Pearl Jam over the years. He doesn't sound quite the same as what I just hear. I don't listen to him live. I only hear the recorded tracks, but he sounds very different. And like just him singing, I wouldn't have known it was Eddie Vedder.
Well, because what you're hearing is 26-year-old Eddie Vedder on 10. Now he's 60, a smoker and a big wine drinker. So he can't really hit those notes anymore. But he's doing very like. They're probably going to be the biggest tours right now. I think they start in April. They're doing about 12 shows, and like it's super expensive. And
is it a good live show? Even though he's old,
they actually now have a big video board that houses these. It's really like a massive video board that films the band and everything, and also has a crowd shot too that shows like behind them. You can see like live crowd shots. I haven't seen them since 2018, but this new tour they have spent a lot of money. They've never been a band that has production value.
It's about the music, not production.
But now they're like, okay, we're in our 60s now. We can kind of like let loose and like spend some money. So it's supposed to be really, really cool visually, but it's just too expensive. I think Chicago was like $1,000 for a ticket, and I was like, you got to get a flight, a hotel. I was like, it's not worth it. I've seen them enough. I'm comfortable enough
Taylor
to say,
Swift.
Yeah, I'm comfortable enough to say I don't have to see them again.
At least you've seen them.
Yeah, I've seen them 8 times. I'm good.
Did you see Nirvana with Post Malone? I actually did not think it was very good.
That is one of I know it's screaming, but it is one of the hardest songs to sing. And it's the first track on the album.
I feel like Post Malone didn't know half the words. And maybe it's just because he was just kind of screaming, slurring it, but...
He is a fan of that stuff, because I remember he played on Stern. He did Them Bones by Alice in Chains, which is just a rare song to hear live. And like you can tell he's a fan of grunge. And so he covers Pearl Jam all the time. He's a talented guy, but it's hard to... I'm trying to remember who did it for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because was it Joan Jett?
I think it was.
And then Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, and then St. Vincent did some stuff. But I saw that St. Vincent did, this is for that random gig they did, but it was okay. I like how Nirvana's, but they've gotten back together like 4 times in the past few years to Chris Novoselic and Dave Grohl, and then Pat Smear.
I was thinking about, I was coming up like, hey, we'll talk about, I know you've seen A Complete Unknown. I was thinking about like biopics you could do. Will we ever get like a really good, not necessarily just Kurt Cobain, but it could be a Dave Grohl biopic down the line, maybe once Foo Fighters is kind of done, like a good Nirvana biopic, do you think you could make a good movie out of that?
I think it'd be really sad because if you've seen, is it Montage of Heck? The Kurt and Courtney were just so into heroin. They were just junkies. And there's like some home video footage of him with his shirt off. He's so skinny. He's got acne all over his shoulders and his back, and he's just shooting heroin. It's just like that's the last few years of his life was that. It's like really depressing. And I don't know how.
Would it be better to be a Nirvana / Kurt Cobain movie or a Dave Grohl movie?
I would say
to where he can kind of then move on and triumph with Foo Fighters.
Well, that's what's so crazy, to re-identify yourself to be a singer-songwriter and a guitar player as opposed to a drummer for the most popular band in the world at the time, and still be an amazing drummer, and to advance and like to have people know that there are people that are going to say like, God, the lead singer from Foo Fighters looks just like the drummer from Nirvana. Like they don't connect the two. It's just crazy to separate yourself that much.
It is almost like when they came out and performed "Smells Like Teen Spirit." So what's the bass player's name?
Chris Novoselic.
He looks weird now.
Well, he's very tall and he's bald.
He's very tall, bald with that mustache.
Yeah.
And then Dave Grohl, but with Post Malone coming out, it's almost like here's like an all-star band playing one of Nirvana's songs, as opposed to like that's Nirvana. It's just obviously Kurt Cobain's dead, so
that's why they said they knew that he was irreplaceable.
Even Pat Smear played with Nirvana, didn't he?
Yeah.
So like that's Nirvana.
So what they said was with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they said that nobody could really touch Kurt's voice, and it's too hard to have somebody like Post Malone come up, a male, so we're gonna just do all females doing. It's because that's why they got St. Vincent and Kim Gordon and Lord did All Apologies. I remember that. So they're like, we're just gonna do all female lead singers, so it's not like because people are gonna crush. Post Malone doesn't sound like him. It's like, well, nobody sounds like him. That he had a rare screaming voice, and that's the amount of pressure on him. And he's a fan, but still, like that is a hard song. And no, it did not sound great. It's just a hard song to sing.
It was cool to see it like done, and to see there's Nirvana, like Dave Grohl in his place as opposed to where he is normally with the Foo Fighters and all. But it was like, okay, this is cool, but I don't know that I want to listen to like a whole concert of this.
And Dave's had a rough 6 months, so it's nice. I think that was his first like real public performance since all this drama.
He hides in the back as the drummer, so he doesn't have to be on the forefront like he would if it was actually Foo Fighters. But I've always wondered like, okay, because the thing with the Bob Dylan biopic now is that's something from the 60s that like my parents watch it, your dad watches it, I think, and has a totally different respect for it than like we do, because we didn't grow up with Bob Dylan. We both grew up more with that 90s grunge than we did that folk music. But even if that wasn't your style, that was still like when he was up and coming, when he was really getting big, to where I don't have a problem with the music. I like the music fine. I like Bob Dylan fine. I don't really care, but like,
you're not very intrigued.
It doesn't have the same appeal to me. So I keep thinking like 20 to 30 years from now, when we're our parents' age, what's that documentary that we're going to say the same thing, and the kids that are born now that are gonna be our age at that point are gonna be like, what are y'all talking about? Nobody cares about this.
Are you setting up Taylor Swift?
Well, no, I mean Taylor Swift would be somebody like that, but like,
who gets to play her?
Somebody who is just now being born, probably, because it's got to be her age 20 or 30 years from now. Like it's got to be somebody who's 30 then.
Is Kevin Hart going to be in it?
No, I don't know. When she goes to the Super Bowl and they play Philly, Kevin Hart will be there, and Bradley Cooper. But like somebody. Britney Spears is the one I always go to. I've always said her story has to come to an end. It's going to come to some depressing end at some point.
Just even the 2007.
And then tell the story. That's something that could be done 5 or 10 years from now.
The head shaving incident was almost 20 years ago.
I know.
That's what's even. There's so much happened since then. See, I don't know how much you cover. Like the stuff now is just, but like.
There has to be some kind of focal point. Like with Bohemian Rhapsody, I feel like the focal point was building up to Live Aid. Like, and that was like a third of the movie was that final Live Aid performance they had with Queen. Like, there's got to be like some kind of focal point with that. And like with the Robbie Williams documentary that came out, there were very, very much certain focal points that they hit on. So what are those focal points with somebody like Britney Spears, who's had like a weird, long, crazy journey? Taylor Swift, who's had that. The one I keep thinking of is somebody like Dave Grohl, because of how big Foo Fighters is now, how influential Nirvana was in the whole grunge movement, that then 20, 30 years from now, is that somebody that you could make a documentary of and to kind of cover both sides of the story with Nirvana and Foo Fighters, or would nobody care at that point?
That's why I was saying, would you rather, I think if somebody said there's going to be a Britney Spears biopic coming out next year or a 6-part documentary series on Netflix, I would rather the documentary. I don't really want to see actors portraying because they're going to try to embellish. The Michael Jackson thing coming up is going to be super embellished. And
Yeah.
There's going to be a little changed history.
Well, and see, his family is actually doing that, and
correct.
his own blood is playing him.
Correct.
So yeah, it's going to be hard to do.
I think a documentary, like 6-part series, would be fascinating on Britney Spears more than like.
I would agree.
Sabrina Carpenter is going to be playing. Like I just don't want to watch
Billy
that.
Bobby Brown.
Yeah,
that's who I think would be a good person to play Britney Spears, like to play younger Britney Spears.
And I was interested in the Madonna thing that Ruth was going to play from Ozark, and they just backed out. Like I was like, that's perfect because she can do so well, but then they just backed out of it. I was like, that might be interesting, but I'm not the biggest Madonna fan, but I think I would be interested in seeing that.
I would probably prefer a documentary too, but with biopics really coming to the forefront more. I think Bohemian Rhapsody really kind of pushed it up because Rami Malek won an Oscar for that. It was nominated for a bunch of stuff. And then obviously Timothée Chalamet doing it now. What is kind of that next thing? Because now it's going to be stuff from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So then 20, 30 years from now, when it's stuff from the 90s and early 2000s, what is that going to be?
You saw the Elvis movie. I never did.
Yeah, it was all right. I thought Austin Butler did good.
I mean, like, because that's huge. It's got to be an icon. I remember somebody saying, I was telling you that somebody was saying that they're going to do a Beatles thing, but there's going to be 4 films, one on each Beatle, because there's just so much on each person. That's a lot. Jay Willoughby would love that. I think the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, because to be just knowing that he's 77, 78 years old, and you've been famous since you were 18 years old, like world famous, that you know nothing else but being beyond world famous, like just stuff like the stuff they've had where they've played with Jimi Hendrix, they've Led Zeppelin, all those bands back in the 60s and 70s, and to still be prominent now to get a Grammy. They won a Grammy this year.
Led Zeppelin just had a documentary come out. Is it like, did they not talk to people normally? I feel like they keep trying to tease that like, oh, this is the first authorized documentary ever for Led Zeppelin, and like they've never talked to anybody, but they're talking now and telling all about Led Zeppelin. I'm not a big Led Zeppelin person, but
they're really good. You should listen to them.
They are. I honestly got into Led Zeppelin by listening to what's the new band that sounds just like them? Greta Van Fleet. I got to listen to them, and then that got me listening back to Led Zeppelin. I mean, not that I didn't know Led Zeppelin, but like I didn't really care to listen to it, but that kind of got me more into listening like them. But
I never saw Straight Outta Compton.
I actually have not seen Straight Outta Compton either.
I never saw the Bob Marley. Like I say these things, but like I really don't have. There's not one that I'm super like, God, I would love to see a movie on. I didn't see Rocket Man. Like I love Elton John, but I just didn't. And I know what's his name, Taron
Egerton. Yeah,
he did a really good job, but I think that was on the heels of Bohemian Rhapsody, where they couldn't succeed. But there's not really anybody that like I would love. Like again with Pearl Jam, I don't want to see a Pearl Jam biopic. I don't, because I just don't.
You already know everything about them. You don't need to see it.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. The Pearl Jam documentary is fantastic. You should see it. PJ20 came out in 2011. It's really good. But no, there's nothing really. I think Elvis would have been better if Tom Hanks wasn't in it. I think Tom Hanks kind of turned me off, and I love Tom Hanks.
It was as much a story on him.
Yeah, Colonel Tom.
As opposed to an Elvis story.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't about, hey, here's Elvis and his upcoming. Here's Elvis and how he got screwed.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Beach Boys.
I don't really care about the Beach Boys.
Well, if you learn about Brian Wilson, it'd be interesting. His dad and everything. So, but there are a lot of people, I just don't know. Like, I am at the point, I think I'm at the age now where I'd rather watch a documentary on it, even if it's
good
longer.
Netflix documentary. You can stay home instead of going to the theater to see something.
Gabby Petito documentary. You forget about it. And that was just what, 2022? And like I forgot about all that stuff. I remember it being on the news every day, and I was like, I'm gonna watch this, and like, okay, I totally forgot this is how it ended, because there's just so many of these stories every year. So yeah.
All right. Well, Oscars for this weekend. Maybe you'll watch it.
Y'all come over to the house.
At least watch some of the Conan bits there at the beginning.
Put it on mute, and you can watch the subtitles.
I will be interested to see how he approaches it, because I feel like Kimmel in the past was willing to get political with it, and I don't imagine Conan will. But
also, having both of his parents pass away within like 2 weeks of each other, and
Conan,
like this was in December, maybe.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Yes, both his parents passed away. He was close to his parents. They both passed away within like 2 weeks of each other, and then his house was almost burned down. So he's had a rough 3-4 months.
So we'll see how he makes it funny.
Yeah,
I love the Oscars. I don't think it'll be as much humor. I think it will be a lot of like, hey, we gotta think about LA, because that's what the Grammys were. The SAG Awards last night kind of were that way. So obviously,
as much as I love him, I would much rather see Ricky Gervais do it, because I don't think he cares. I like the Ricky Gervais, which is the uncomfortable humor. Conan's not going to say he's not going to go after celebrities. He's not going to go after what's his name, Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, and Blake Lively. He's like, I would
there
love
was
that.
a really funny bit at the SNL 50th.
I saw that
50th
question and answer.
It's like anything going on? Why? What have you heard?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
Speaking of old people, Keith Richards was there too, randomly in the crowd. There's just some.
He's a pirate.
Yeah, there's just some random people that they invited to that thing. But it was entertaining. It's worth watching if you haven't seen the SNL 50th, the concert and the actual show itself. But anyway, before we ramble on too much longer, we'll talk about the Oscars a little bit next week. We'll work on some playhouses now that your schedule is becoming a little freer. And obviously, we'll work on getting the lounge going as well. You're in here picking on the guitar earlier, and we'll get a setup for that.
Refreshing my Jimmy Buffett stuff. That's coming up in a couple months.
Yeah, a lot of Black Jacket shows coming up. Do you know off the top of your head when you're going to be in Birmingham again?
We're not doing a Birmingham.
I thought there was a Birmingham show.
Not doing a Birmingham show. We're doing Huntsville and Mobile and Montgomery. We're doing 2 shows in Huntsville. Now we're doing all over the Southeast. I think it's like 22 shows, but we did the Birmingham show at the BJCC last year, so this
is worldwide. So we'll put a whole schedule out of everywhere. You'll be for all the Jimmy Buffett shows. And are you doing Fleetwood Mac anytime soon?
No,
are you pretty much done with that?
That's not in the schedule right now. They are touring on Abbey Road right now, and I think they just announced they're doing Bon Jovi's "Slippery When Wet." So I'm sure there's going to be a small fall tour for that. I don't know who's doing that. So
you?
No, God no. I can't sing Bon Jovi.
Can't do Bon Jovi?
No, Bon Jovi can't do Bon Jovi. Like that's a really. Living on a Prayer is a really high song to sing.
Who's it? There's somebody else that does it.
Richie Zambora is on. He's the guitarist, which is fantastic harmonies. It's going to be heavy lifting, so I can't wait to see it. But I am not on that show.
If you get that call, you never know.
I won't get that call.
Okay.
Blaze of Glory.
Anyway, this has been Off the Table, episode 3, I think.
Yeah,
I think it's 3.
Yeah.
Anyway, hoping everything goes well with you and Nancy at home, and we'll get back in the swing of things and go from there.
Have a good.
Bye.
Okay. See, Arlen. I think we did really good.